So let's talk activity trackers. Is it a case of Fitbit or Fitshit? It's time for us to figure out if the whole sort of craze around activity trackers and being so obsessed with step count is actually of any benefit whatsoever into you losing fat and achieving your goals. Now, first thing I'll say is that activity trackers are a coach's godsend. So from my point of view, Fitbits, activity trackers, whatever you use, whatever you want to call it, are a fucking good thing. Because way before those things were around, trying to figure out how many calories you were burning, how much exercise you were doing outside of the gym was almost a complete unknown. Pure guesswork almost. So difficult to estimate how many calories you're burning just through your natural day-to-day lifestyle, through how many steps you were taking, because we didn't fucking have a clue about that. So really difficult to get that energy balance equation right from day one. A lot more trial and error was in progress and trying to figure out, okay, well, why isn't this person's scale weight moving? Because I figured I've got everything right, but they told me they're doing this and they told me they're doing that, but actually scales are not moving. So often this is a way to kind of cut through that, give you some data and enable you to judge that energy balance a lot better. Now, also probably most importantly as well, is the situation of metabolic adaptation or adaptive thermogenesis, as we've talked about on previous podcasts. That point in that weight loss phase where things start to plateau a little bit. That's basically where your body is getting used to functioning on lower calories. As we talked about before, it's shutting down some functions, down regulating some sort of activity and behavior. Potentially you are feeling a little bit more lethargic, so naturally you're moving a lot less, you're naturally less inclined to be more active during the day, and your body's just basically preserving some calories here to function on these lower calories that you're giving it. So a activity tracker can really help combat that, because if you're saying, well, before I started this diet, I was doing my normal day-to-day lifestyle and that involved 10,000 steps per day, for example. If you didn't have that activity tracker, that step count might naturally drift down to 9,000, to 8,000, to 6,000, and therefore over time start to impact how much of a calorie deficit you are in, or even if you're in a calorie deficit at all. However, if you've got a tracker on your wrist telling you how many steps you're taking, you can proactively try to maintain that step count throughout the course of that dieting phase. So whether you feel like it, whether you feel more lethargic, you've got that piece of data that's telling you you need to do more steps, dude. Otherwise, you're not going to be in a calorie deficit, mon frere. You can actually have that data accessible then and there in the moment. And that's hugely beneficial. Now, we used to have old school pedometers that used to fucking strap to your freaking waist. They're absolute dog shit. Now we're in the technological age where actually now these things are pretty useful. And when it comes to step count, they are pretty accurate. Now then there's the whole question of 10,000 steps itself. Is this some sort of magical, mythical target that you need to be reaching, or else it's kind of fucking pointless for you to track your activity? Now to me, the actual number 10,000 steps is just a nice round number to try to aim for. For me as well, when I'm calculating a client's activity level and trying to judge their calories, kind of this 8 to 10,000 step range is the start point of the next level of activity. So I might class someone who's say got less than 5,000 steps per day as someone who's fairly sedentary. I might class someone who's 8 to 10,000 steps per day but has got an office job as someone who's lightly active. If they've got more than 10,000 steps per day, I might say they're moderately active. Again, I'm using this data to assess that point at which I can say, this is how many calories I think you're going to be burning on a daily basis, and therefore these are how many calories you should be eating to stay in a calorie deficit. So that kind of 8 to 10,000 steps for me, just kind of pushes you into a different level of activity. And then if you can kind of think about that when you start, maybe you start out at 5,000 steps. If you can start to increase that, then again, you are kind of furthering not only just your calorie deficit, your fat loss, but also your general health as well. But there's nothing magical happens as soon as you hit 8,000, as soon as you hit 10,000. It's just kind of a nice number to aim for. So what I would say to you is set your own targets. If you are someone right now who is basically, you get up in the morning and your steps count from you walking around the house ready to get ready for work, to getting into the car, to getting out of the car and into the office, and that's it. And you're doing about 2,000 steps per day. Just focus on trying to increase it a bit more. Trying to get to 10,000 steps per day is just going to be super demotivating. You're going to not get anywhere fucking close, and you're just going to think, what's the fucking point? Whereas actually, if all you did was say, well, okay, in the car park at work, I'm going to park as far away from the front door as possible so I've got the longest walk. I'm going to take the stairs instead of taking the lift or the escalator. I'm going to get off one tube station earlier so I can have a bit of a longer walk. I'm going to get out at lunchtime and go for a walk. I'm going to go for a coffee break and go for a walk while I'm on a coffee break twice in the day. Whatever it is, those little things are going to add up to increase your step count over the course of a day. And that's going to have a huge impact over the course of time. So don't necessarily get too hung up about 10,000 steps as a specific number. If you're close, cool, aim for it. If you're already there, cool, sustain it or try to increase it a little bit more. But just kind of generally aim for a little bit of an increase, kind of push yourself into that next level of activity. Now, here's where kind of there are Fitbits and shit like that are a little bit shit. That's when it comes to calories burned. So never use your activity tracker to judge how many calories you burned and therefore how many calories you should eat. That's not where you should use them for. In terms of like the research around that, kind of they've been proven to be a little bit inaccurate when it comes to that. So what you should be doing is, like I said before, is using the number of steps to influence what you put into a calorie calculator, whether that be online, whether that's one you can download from ironparadisefitness.com, or whether you can find on my Instagram page at iron_paradise_fitness. If you're using one of those calculators, use the step count to influence the activity level by which you multiply up your BMR through those calculators. Don't use it to say, well, okay, well, this says I burned 3,000 calories today, so I'm going to fucking neck 3,000 calories. Do not use it for that purpose. It's just going to fuck you right up. So don't use it for that. Just take the step count and apply that to your calorie calculator, and then just fucking ignore it. Focus on step count. If it looks at your sleep, maybe you can use that to influence trying to get a better night's sleep. If it prompts you to move multiple times through the day, again, just to keep that, activity level up, great. Use it for all those things. Use it as a motivational tool to keep the step count high and to keep overall sort of things moving in the right direction. But don't use it for calories. Do not use it for calories. And again, use it for maintaining those steps throughout that dieting phase. So your natural process where things start to down-regulate and adaptations start to occur, try to combat that by focusing on step count and maintaining where you're at. So this has been a bit of a brief one, but the kind of takeaway point I want you to take is that activity trackers are good. They're good when it comes to monitoring step count. They're good when it comes to trying to motivate you to do more steps, to be more active, to maintain your step count as you go into a fat loss phase, maybe deeper into that fat loss phase where potential adaptations start to take hold. An activity tracker can help you combat that by maintaining that step count. So use it for that motivation, use it for that step count tracker, but don't use it to judge calories, and definitely don't use it to judge how many calories you should eat off the back of that. So hopefully that kind of gave you some insight into whether your activity tracker is a good thing or a bad thing. I definitely think they're a good thing used in the right way. So if you've got maybe some conflicting views, maybe you want to argue the toss with me on this one, well, why not head over to iron_paradise_fitness on Instagram, drop me a DM and tell me what you thought. Or maybe this gave you a bit of an epiphany. Maybe this said, you know what, this Simon dude is right. Maybe I should talk to him about how he can help me get from A to B in terms of my body goals in the fastest possible time frame. If that's you, then I suggest that you definitely come over to Instagram, definitely drop me a message and say, Simon, tell me more about your online coaching program, of which I will gladly do for you. So for now, all I'm going to say is thanks so much for listening. Keep living the lean life, and I'll see you for the next episode of the show.